It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Friday. It's our final show of the week. I wasn't sure I was going to make it, but the wife is still rocking along steady, about 10 months pregnant now, I guess. She's 40 weeks. Wow. She is legitimately ready to go, but not quite. She's not quite there yet. So, well, we're here, and we're happy to be bringing you the Sports Blitz today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to release here in just a moment, which if you've not been to the site to see them, the Brightest Stars Banquet finalists have been released on the site and on Facebook. We're going to share those with you here in just a moment. We've got some NBA talk, some Jameis Winston information, the crab thief, or no, it was crab legs.
Crab legs, yeah.
And plenty more today on the Sports Blitz world, and we've got plenty to talk about.
We really do, Mark. NBA playoffs, just tremendous action. Closeout games last night in which teams could not close out. That was the theme. Or depending on how you want to look at it, teams staying alive. Indiana Pacers set up for an epic collapse. They live for another day. Oklahoma City lives to fight another day. So you've got some Game 7s coming up tomorrow, and then tonight could set up some Game 7s. You look at Portland trying to close out Houston, San Antonio and Dallas. How about Toronto and Brooklyn? A good series all across the board, Mark. So the NBA playoffs are hot. We're going to talk about that as well. Arkansas Razorback talk. We're in that point to where spring football is over. Not really much going on. Baseball, they're getting into gear as they finish out SEC play, but Mark, the big news with the Razorbacks yesterday, Kevon Allen from North Little Rock, officially commits to play for the Florida Gators. It's one of those things, Mark, and I want to get your take on it. It was disappointing when I heard it, but it kind of felt like he was Florida for a while. For some reason, we could never get our hooks into him. I've heard of a variety of reasons, his AAU affiliation, things of that nature. But in the end, Kevon Allen commits to be a Gator.
Like you said, it's disappointing, but it's not surprising, so to speak. A lot of folks that follow the recruiting game were talking for months about how Kevon Allen was leaning more toward someplace outside of the state, and that Arkansas had a better shot at a guy like Malik Monk, who's a year younger and a top 10 player in the country in his class. Kevon Allen's very, very good. Heard nothing but great things today from coaches and friends and people who know Kevon Allen. He is apparently a really great kid, and he just wanted to be a part. I mean, really, you've got to be a different type and I don't say different, you've got to be a very specific type to want to play in this system. And, Billy Donovan and his system there in Florida, it may be a better fit for him. That may just be and also, he hadn't signed anything yet.
That's true.
Kai Madden came down to Arkansas, Ole Miss. A lot of people thought he was going to Ole Miss. He flips to go to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Arkansas is still going to keep recruiting Kevon Allen, and there's a chance. I'm not saying it's a good chance, but there's a chance he ends up at Arkansas. At this point, though, it looks like he's going to go to Florida. I can't necessarily blame him.
No, and here's the thing, right? Florida right now, whether we like it or not, they're a better program than Arkansas. Now, I think a lot of us like where Mike Anderson's headed. We like the direction he's going. But for right now, Florida's been to the Elite Eight multiple years in a row. Of course, the Final Four this past year. They've had success with perimeter players. You look at Wilbekin Conference Player of the Year. You look at Bradley Beal, now one of the top players for a playoff contending team. You go back to Chandler Parsons when he won SEC Player of the Year, now a big-time player for Houston, although he's more of a wing. So you can understand it. I just think it's about where Arkansas is as a program. Because, obviously, when you talk about Kevon Allen, that opens the door for the Malik Monk discussion coming up, the following year.
Yep.
And I think it's, people ask and talk about, well, can Arkansas get Malik Monk? What are the chances? I just think it's about where Arkansas is at as a program at the time he makes his decision. If he had to make his decision right now, I'm not sure. But if Arkansas makes a tournament and does the things they're supposed to next year, I think it'll make a better impression. So I think it's about where Arkansas is as a program.
You think about the where, like you said, where Arkansas is as a program and the prestige of being able to say, I'm going to Florida or I'm going to Kentucky. Archie Goodwin had a choice to come to Arkansas or Kentucky, and really at the point in time when he decided to go to Kentucky, it wasn't even a question. Yeah. And so, like you said, Arkansas goes to the tournament this next year, makes some noise. I don't necessarily agree with what Bobby Portis said. Now, I loved it. I loved what he said. He came out and he said, Arkansas kids need to understand that in this state we're the pro team, and that's true. There's no other pro team in Arkansas. It's the Razorbacks acting as a pro team for the Razorback fans. So but at the same time, you can't blame somebody else for choosing something that they think is better for them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you look at the age of technology and communication as far as being able to see film. My football team at Itasca, we have a database we look at where we can see any kid in the country just with the click of a button, a kid in Seattle, Washington, or New Jersey, and we have a chance to interact with that kid. That's something that didn't exist 20 years ago. And so I look at Arkansas and where they're at. I think the technology age and the communication age has given to them and it's taken away. Arkansas can now get to kids in other places they haven't gotten to before because they need to go out and get players because of the in-state talent isn't to the level it needs to be because of population. But at the same time, in-state kids now see other places more than what they have before. So I think it's a give and take because of the communication era.
Definitely. Well, we're going to have to get some recruiting folks, some guys who followed a little closer to talk with us a little bit about Malik Monk and some of the other guys Arkansas can possibly get with this upcoming senior class. Now, Malik Monk's going to be a junior this year, so he's going to have another year after this year to play in high school. Kayvon Allen will be a senior this next year, so you've got to get somebody. If you're going to miss out on Kayvon Allen, you got to get somebody to basically make up for that miss, so to speak, in recruiting. So we'll talk a little bit more Razorbacks here in a little bit, but we want to get started because we've got NBA playoff talk. We've got Jameis Winston. We've got a lot of stuff that's going to be outside of the norm for today, but we want to get started with a local sports look, and it's high time. We get to announce the Brightest Stars Banquet finalists. Been a whole lot of work behind it and a lot of fun going to be had on May 29th at Russellville High School. We're going to have a great time, and we're going to honor more than 100 student-athletes. We want you to get your tickets and come support your local student-athletes, your grandson, your son, your nephew, your friend, and come check out what I believe is the first of its kind in this area where you're seeing football, basketball, baseball, all the way to soccer and track and cross-country and swimming awarded at the same time. Every one of these nominees are going to receive a certificate, and these finalists will vie for the big, nice plaque that will distinguish them as player or coach of the year. I'm going to read off the finalists real quickly in each of the sports. We've got a couple of Help Network awards that are coming to us here in the next few days. There's going to be Assistant Coach of the Year and then a Hands Up Assister of the Year, so to speak. It's a player in basketball, boys basketball, who had the most assists. That was one of the things Help Network wanted to have done and accomplish with their side of helping us out with the banquet. But here are the finalists for Coach and Player of the Year. We'll start with coaches. Chance Johnson, we mentioned this before. We've given you the Coach of the Year finalist. Chance Johnson, the girls basketball coach at Pottsville High School. He is a finalist for Coach of the Year. Josh Price, the football coach at Dardanelle, and Mark Taylor, the football coach at Hector. Congratulations to those guys for being Coach of the Year finalists. We'll find out on May 29th who wins that award. And then without further ado, here are the Player of the Year award finalists. Michael Perry from Pottsville, Andy Campbell from Russellville, and Freddie Lee from Clarksville, all three boys basketball finalists. The girls basketball finalists, and that boys basketball award sponsored by River Valley Radio. We appreciate their help. We're going to get the commercials running on their stations here in the next couple days, and thank them for all their help. The girls basketball award sponsored by Shoe Carnival, Lindy Hignite from Lamar, Savannah Hodges from Danville, and Stephanie Tragle from Dardanelle. The football award, sponsored by CSI Insurance here in Russellville, is going to be Jalen Curtis from Russellville, J.J. Dunn from Dardanelle, and Tyler Green from Two Rivers. That's the football award. The baseball award, sponsored by Easy Pawn in Clarksville, Easy Pawn and Gun in Clarksville. Thank you to the Haas family for hooking us up there. Jace Hudson from Clarksville, Ethan Farnham from Dardanelle and Braxton Sampley from Lamar are our finalists in that award. Softball, Darcy Fountain from Hector, Andrea Kendrick from Russellville, and Stephanie Tragle. She's the only nominee in 2 different sports from Dardanelle. She's going to be in girls basketball and in softball. So far, and I know I've got a bunch more, but I'll take a break for just a second. So far, we've got a whole lot of different schools represented, a whole lot of different kids going to get a chance to be up there and be recognized.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good as far as the names. With us doing this show and covering a lot of the things we do, we recognize a lot of those names, but some names people may not know, and you may get there and say, okay, I didn't know they were doing this and that in various sports, and so the exposure is great. The finalists right now, you can't argue. I mean, it's hard to argue. I know, Mark, and I'll let you talk about this. You've had some situations where you've had to explain the process of the nomination and then the balloting, so people can understand if you think a name is missing that you may think should be on there. Mark will kindly point you in the right direction to aim your let's just call it your interest in the topic.
There you go. That's very diplomatic of you. What we did was we sent the ballots to the coaches. We reminded them 3 or 4 times, and they sent us back nomination forms with 3 players from their own school. And then what we did was we compiled a ballot with all of those names. We sent it back, and we said, vote for somebody that's not from your own school. Unfortunately, some people still voted for their own students, and we disqualified as many of those votes as we possibly could so that we could get a fair assessment. Because if you take all these coaches who voted for who nominated players from their team, and then they all vote for their own player, everybody gets 1 vote,
right.
And so we can't determine a winner. So we had to try our best to when we made that clear. We tried to make that as clear as we could, but we had some schools who just didn't send in as many of the nomination forms as we would have hoped for and we would have liked, and we definitely apologize for the fact that some of the good players in these sports weren't nominated. I mean, there was nothing we could do aside from literally take their, walk up to them and get them to push the button because we emailed it several times, talked to each athletic director by phone and by email, and we tried to make sure and do our due diligence there. And next year, they'll see that their players weren't nominated this year and didn't have a chance to win an award, and they'll be nominating their players next year. I can guarantee
they
it.
Will, yeah.
Here, going on with the finalists in volleyball, it's a Russellville fest because we didn't have anybody but Russellville who nominated their players, and this is kind of where we're heading with this. In volleyball, Diana Hale, Ashton Kendrick, and Grace Royce, all from Russellville. Boys track, Rain Cook from Danville, Chris Keschner from Dardanelle, and Parker Witt from Dardanelle. Girls track, Bonnie Champion from Danville, Peyton Cook from Lamar, and Gracie Wilkins also from Lamar. Boys soccer, this is another one of those. This is the Clarksville Fest. All 3 boys and girls soccer players are from Clarksville because nobody else nominated anybody. So the Boys Soccer Award sponsored by KXIO Coffee House in Clarksville. Nick Bean, Joel Cuevas, and Jack Scacia. I think is how you say that. It's Scaccia. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name there. And then girls soccer, Monse Fabian, Morgan Jacobs, and Honey Stevens, all from Clarksville. Clarksville's going to win the Boys and Girls Awards. There's just no question about that in soccer.
I don't think so.
Boys golf, Trip Kroom from Russellville, Ethan Grace from Russellville, and Clint Smallwood from Dardanelle. Girls golf, Mackenzie Douglas from Clarksville, Juliana Harper from Dardanelle, Chrissy Davis from Dardanelle. Boys swimming, sponsored by Friendship Community Care, Brandon Baker from Clarksville, Grayson Mullins from Clarksville, and Chris Newby from Russellville. Girls swimming, Hannah Ray from Russellville, Aaron Rogers from Clarksville, and Brooke Denton also from Clarksville. In boys cross country, Jose Castellano from Dardanelle, Joey Shirley from Russellville, and Mason Rhodes from Russellville. And in girls cross country, Sydney Hinkle from Dover, Lindsay Moses from Dardanelle, Morgan Smith from Russellville. In boys tennis, Hugh Benfer from Dardanelle, Woodrow Ramey also from Dardanelle, and Frankie Williams from Russellville. And girls tennis, finally, Mae Brown from Russellville, Shadale Crow from Dardanelle, and Montana Crowell from Russellville. All your finalists for the Brightest Stars Banquet. We've got a finalist represented from every school. We've got, and I can tell you from looking at the ballots and finding out who the winners are from calculating the votes, we've got 9 schools represented in the winners. It's going to be an incredible night. We want all these finalists. Each finalist gets 4 tickets, basically. They get a ticket for themselves, their 2 parents, and their head coach. So each one of these finalists, I don't see any reason why each one of those 3 finalists in each sport doesn't need to show up with their parents and their head coach, and we have at least 250 people just showing up
Right.
from finalists that get tickets for free. Family and friends after that want to come, we want as many of them as we can fit. We've got 600 seats that are going to be available in Russellville High School's cafeteria, $25 a ticket. What you'll get, Maddie's putting together a presentation, photos. We want all the finalists who will to send us a headshot from their athlete, whether it's in uniform, whether it's a school picture, whatever it is. Email it to lassiter.mcl@gmail.com. I just gave Maddie's play email out there to everyone.
For play.
Or you can email me, mark@rivervalleyleader.com, with your photos, and we would love to we're going to put a presentation together where when the awards banquet begins, we're going to be rolling through with the finalists and each award, and then we're going to do it kind of like the ESPYs or the Oscars, where we're going to give out the award, the nominees are, the finalists are, and your winner is. It's going to be, I think, a really cool way to kind of drum up interest and also kind of build suspense for the awards.
Well, I mean, the suspense is certainly there because everybody you named is qualified. I mean, certainly there are a few names who you may say, well, they're the favorite. I believe they're going to win. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. You'll be surprised. See, because it's not just about, okay, I saw this person's stats or I've heard more about them. It's a balloting process that kind of goes on, too. And when you have a balloting process, I don't know, strange things can happen. We know that from watching political campaigns. But, I expect tickets to become, really hot right now. I've said this many times. I said it on Wednesday. Now the finalists are out. You announced, was it yesterday?
Yep.
You announced the finalists. So you now have some faces that will be in attendance. You have some faces who obviously will be there, and one of them will be taking home an award. And I know all of these student athletes have a lot of support behind them because I've seen it myself. Therefore, we fully expect for you to be at the Brightest Stars banquet.
Definitely. We want as many folks as possible to show up and support these student athletes. The reason that we're selling tickets is because this type of event costs some significant money. We've got to get you got to think about the equipment. You got to think about the setup and tear down, the cleanup fees, the insurance. We had to have $1 million worth of insurance on this facility just in case something happened to somebody. We had to have the caterer. We have to have the speaker. We have to have all these different things, the awards themselves, the promotion of the event. We have to have a lot of stuff that we have to pay for, and I'd love to be able to make it free. Maybe next year we'll have a big sponsor who will throw down some nice money, and we'll just be able to say it's free, show up, and we'll have it at Tucker Coliseum and pack that sucker out or something. Who knows? But as of right now, this is why we're doing it. We're not going to make any money on this. Anything that is, even if we did make money this year, it would roll toward next year so that we can make that event a bigger and better success. So we want you guys to all come out. We're going to have tickets across the Tri-County area. I know in Johnson County right now, we're going to have tickets at KXIO Coffee House. I thank you to Jody Copeland for helping us out with that. And I know we're going to have them at Easy Pawn and Gun. Tammy and Jeff Haas letting us put them up there. And this is a big deal to me, and I really appreciate it because these folks who are letting us set these tickets up at their place, they're going to have to handle money for us. They're going to have to give change and keep up with this and hand out these tickets. And, they're already running a business, and they're already taking money and doing these things, and they're busy enough. So for them to sacrifice and allow us to do this, we really appreciate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'll have an opportunity around town, Mark. We talked about for those who think computers are still something evil. We do have hard copies available for you. So you can just go in and say, oh, hey, you got Brightest Stars tickets. Let me pick one up. Here's $25. Then you can just show it at the door, Mark. And you've explained the process before for those who do purchase online, show proof of ID. They'll be on the list and get checked off. So it'll all run smooth. We've
only got 100 hard copy tickets. If we need more, if we sell out, we'll get those. But we were expecting that a lot of people would buy them online. And then what Weldon said is we're going to have all the finalists. We're going to have their name, and obviously they can have a party of 4 with them, the 3 with them, and them as number 4, and we'll just check them off the list. They don't even have to have a ticket or anything. They just show, I'm Michael Perry, or I'm whoever, like we wouldn't recognize Michael, but I'm so-and-so, and these are my parents, this is my coach, go on in. It's not going to be a real formal affair. And speaking of formal affair, dress how you want to. I don't know if I would go to an awards banquet in flip-flops and shorts, but If that's the way you want to roll, then go for it. If you want to wear a tux, I'm not going to be wearing a tux. But if you want to, go for it. I don't care how you dress or anything like that. But we would like for this to be a fun and exciting event. I've been getting emails from family members and coaches right now who are asking how this is going to go and if they need to do anything. Coaches, you just show up. You guys do a lot during the year. You coach hard. You help your student athletes to get better. A lot of these coaches are parents too, so they've got a whole lot on their plate. I just want you to show up and enjoy the night. Enjoy the event. You don't have to do anything. We've got the presentation all locked down. We've got presenters. We've got the dinner, obviously. We've got all the good stuff going on. You don't have to show up and make a speech. You don't have to do anything at all aside from show up and enjoy yourself at the Brightest Stars Banquet. And I know we've went a little long on this segment because of this, and I'm not going to apologize. We're going to continue to do it. We're going to push this event as hard as we can because in 27 days, it's going to be a reality, and we're really looking forward to it. It's been a whole lot of work. I want to say a huge, huge thank you to our Emily Young, who has done so much with me behind the scenes to get some of this stuff together. I think I'm going to try to do as much as I can to help her out because she's been doing very, very, very well for me, helping me out with this banquet. And also the Help Network folks, Ed and his crew over there, doing a whole lot of good stuff. And we appreciate every one of our sponsors as well. So 27 days till the Brightest Stars Banquet, and you'll find out who the winners of these awards are. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to a little bit of Donald Sterling information, NBA playoffs, Jameis Winston, and eventually into Hog Talk.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz on a Friday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios. I got a mouthful out about the Brightest Stars Banquet. Now it's time to move on to the world of sports outside of the local area. Well, I say that. We've got some good news to pass along. The Arkansas Tech men's baseball team won the Great American Conference with a 22nd consecutive win. They locked up the conference championship. Also, the Hector baseball team got wins over Scranton and Quitman. And then, let me see, Russellville baseball beat Parkview. And let me think here.
I think they played Southside too recently.
They lost to Southside.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the last stuff that I had. The Pottsville Lady Apache softball team won the conference championship or tied for the conference championship. The district tournament is in Mena this weekend. I know that I was talking to a friend, and Dardanelle softball and Pottsville baseball both play tonight and tomorrow in the district tournament. So they've got some, and Dardanelle, Dover, and Pottsville all going to be in that conference tournament. So I know the Dover baseball team, I think, won the conference in the 4A4 baseball
Good
league.
for them.
So,
they needed something.
yeah, man, they've had a rough couple of years, haven't they, over at Dover? But the baseball team's been pretty good. So.
Yeah, they needed that. I know we've said this before, but Parkview
Doesn't need to have a baseball
they
team.
need to figure some stuff out.
Team.
Some stuff off the basketball court. They need to figure out the other stuff. I mean, they don't just get beat in football. They get roasted in football. Then they come and they lose like 19-0 in baseball and softball. I mean, we love what they do in basketball. A lot of great talent. Just sensational. But I think they need to figure some stuff out in other sports.
Definitely.
I'm just saying.
That's the nicest way that you could say that. All right, let's move on. Jameis Winston, this is our CrossFit Russellville poll question. What are your thoughts on the Jameis Winston situation? The news sort of broke the other day while we were on the show, and we gave initial opinions about how, dude, you're Jameis Winston. You're the Heisman Trophy winner, and you're caught shoplifting crab legs. Chances are when you walk in that building as the Heisman Trophy winner, all eyes are going to be on you. It's going to be really hard for you to get out of there with whatever you were wanting to take. And then there were different stories about how maybe he had, have you ever done this at the grocery store? You've gotten a case of water, a Coke or whatever underneath your cart, and you put everything else up there and you pay for it, and then you walk out and oh crap, I didn't pay for this water. Maddie and I were talking about this the other day, and when that kind of thing happens, you go back and you pay for it. Maybe he just didn't.
That's the only exception. Maybe you got a big bulky item under the basket. Other than that, I can't buy this stuff. I mean, and they were talking about this on ESPN and stuff. Okay, if you're at a restaurant, you're kind of talking around, or you're at a place at a bar or something, and you forget to pay your tab, you kind of walk out, you've been talking for a long. That stuff happens. I can't get past at a grocery store. Because let's think about a grocery store setup. You when you're walking out, let's say you're in the store, you're walking out, there's where you're at, and then there's the door. What's that in between? There's a row of things in between there. We call those the checkout counters. And something usually kind of jumps off, oh, I got something in my hand. And I'm walking past these checkout counters. That's the part that I'm having a hard time with.
Well, I asked, what are your initial thoughts, and then what if I could give you some information that might change your mind? What do you think? Would you consider it? I heard Marcellus Wiley talk about this yesterday, and I hadn't heard it widely reported since. But Marcellus Wiley, he's on ESPN. Sports Nation is the show that he's on. He said he was speaking with some friends of his in the Florida State and Tallahassee area there, and Florida A&M that's right over there in that area.
Right.
And they said that Publix, that grocery store, for decades has been widely known as being friendly to the student athlete. In other words, he said they'll let you have things. They'll let you come in there whenever you need some groceries, and they'll let you take what you need and just basically look the other way. And I don't know how that works loss prevention wise. I don't know how that works, if that's a manager on high or who is allowed. If it's been done for decades, I mean, it's got to be something that's pretty high up.
Right.
And allegedly, this is all. I mean, we're not there, so we don't know for sure. But if that's the case, and Jameis Winston takes these crab legs and whatever else he might have had or wanted, and they were allowing this type of thing, it changes the way I view Jameis Winston in this instance.
Right.
Now, there's some other stuff, and it's one of those fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type things. I'm not going to be fooled by Jameis Winston a fourth or fifth or 10th time, and he's done some stupid stuff. And either way, this is against the rules, and he knows it's against the rules, and he's doing it. So take that for what it's worth. But if he's the one who gets caught because some new cashier didn't know that that's the way things rolled down there in Tallahassee,
right,
then he's kind of falling on the sword for a lot of folks. He's kind of taking, it for everyone and taking this $30, little slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
And he's taking it for everyone else. And I sort of, in a weird way, have a little bit more respect in that he didn't just throw everybody under the bus and say, no, we've been doing this for years and everyone's doing it.
Well, I understand it from the context of this particular incident, looking at it differently. But you look at his record, and while obviously the sexual assault charge is what really jumps out, and of course nothing came of that, he still has some little things, a little BB gun shooting incident, which isn't anything that bad, but it's too many run-ins on his recruiting visit, taking a little soda at the Burger King and then pay for it, just a lot of that little stuff is adding up. Now, as far as this particular situation, here would be my question. Look, and Marcellus, I'm sure he's right. FAMU, historically black college. I'm sure he's got connections. But I would imagine if this has been going on for years, they've hired and fired people many times over the years. Yet still, the new employees over the years have been privy to what's going on, if this had really been going on for a while. So I'm just thinking, and I would ask, if this really is how the system is set up under the table at Publix, there's got to be a more systematic way they go about it than just saying random Florida State athlete, come in and take whatever and walk out. I imagine there's a little bit more discretion in the way they do it than Jameis didn't take part.
There's an easy way you can do it. If you're at a grocery store and you're going to allow this very quietly, you work with the athletic departments and you give them some sort of voucher that's like a coupon or whatever that says free whatever, X amount of dollars, or a card or something that says you get this amount of dollars or whatever. It's just like, or even if it's just like a credit card and they can come in and get what they want, you can keep track of who's got what. That'd help you with LP too, loss prevention. And all that, so.
You're right about that. So that's why I'm thinking that Jameis, there's something not right about how he went about this under the table code, because there is no system that could be in place for years that lets people just walk in and walk out. So even if they do have this, like you said, it should still involve going to the register and swiping a card or something.
Well, and the weird and stupid thing that I read, now this obviously, like I said, this is all second and third and 15th hand information, but somebody said that Jameis Winston and actually I saw it on Twitter, that Jameis Winston was standing, near somebody else, and he said, "Hey, where's the manager?" and said this name or whatever, and they said, "Yeah, so-and-so told me I could just get whatever I wanted," and then he just left. And I guess whoever he told or somebody in that line just, hey, that guy just stole that, so that's kind of how that went down. And, it's kind of funny when I think about it this way. I saw all the memes, and it's not funny in the fact that it's a bunch of different strikes on his sort of ledger, but at the same time, man, it's a couple months ahead of players being able to have whatever they want food wise. As far as the NCAA changing their rules and stuff. So it's kind of dumb.
Yeah, it really is. And Florida State, and this is another part of the issue. Florida State really needs to be looked at, because first of all, there's still clouds around their relationship with the police department and how much the police is in their pocket, or vice versa with the whole assault thing. Then you have this where they have a little under the table deal with the Publix grocery store. Some things about Florida State kind of need to be looked at. We know it goes on everywhere, but it's starting to come out about Florida State. Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of looking at.
It was free shoes, and now it's free seafood, Got FSU on the brain. All right, let's hit a break. We've got NBA playoffs after this. This is the best year for first-round series in history. He only had one bad series, and that was a LeBron James problem there. So four-game sweep for the Heat. But you've got several Game 7s coming. You've got some really good series that are coming down to the wire. So we're going to talk NBA playoffs here in just a little bit. If you've got thoughts on Jameis Winston, NBA playoffs, Donald Sterling, anything else, you just give us a call. Our number's 968-NEWS. That's 968-6397.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz on a Friday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studios. We're working on how we're going to get the word out, how we're going to get the tickets out for the Brightest Stars Banquet, among other things, during the break. You should be here during our break. We should just run, while they're listening to the commercials, we should just run, or whatever. Maybe watch a commercial and they can choose to watch us instead or something. I don't know, something crazy, because we do some weird stuff in the breaks. But all right, NBA playoffs. Well, actually, before we get to that, we've talked a lot about Donald Sterling this week, and apparently ESPN has sources telling them that Donald Sterling has prostate cancer.
Yeah, I've heard that report come out. Look, it doesn't change anything. I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, obviously he's going to have to go through that in that situation, and I don't wish poor health on anybody or anything like that. But the task at hand is the comments and the fallout from it, and removing him from ownership. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing's changed. That still needs to continue to proceed. And
a lot of the owners I've read here are pushing for a 29-0 vote. And there are some layers to this. Donald Sterling, apparently, if he's got cancer, he's not going to feel like fighting a whole lot as far as in court. But if he did, he's a lawyer. He's an attorney, a former divorce attorney, and what they call an ambulance chaser. He was just that kind of guy. And I got a bunch of those I got a bunch of mail from attorneys from across the state. Whenever I got rear-ended the other day, it was like this. Boop! I just barely got touched, and I got mail from everyone, got calls from all these people. You know what I did? I hit them all up for advertisement. I was like, "You should advertise with River Valley Leader."
That's a good idea. Yeah,
that's exactly what I did.
Maybe you won't have to chase down little fender benders.
Seriously, you don't need to mess with me. I'll come back at you with asking you for money. So Donald Sterling may not feel like fighting, and if that's the case, maybe he'll leave what could turn into a long, nasty sort of legal battle alone, and he'll go away. And if he does, then it's a bidding war for the franchise. Although guys like Floyd Mayweather thinks he can afford it, not going to happen. I looked at Floyd Mayweather's net worth. It's like $150 million or something, which is a lot of freaking money.
They ain't gonna get it.
No,
it's going
to go for $1.5 billion. Yeah, and I don't even think he could lead a group. I mean, unless it was a 20-person group that had about as much money as he did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of these teams are going to be, or at least people are going to be led by your groups. Oprah's going to put a group. Obviously, Oprah can put more in than Floyd as far as the group's concerned. But what's interesting to me about this, as we continue to follow the developments of the Donald Sterling situation, is the stance of the players. The players they're starting to ease up a little bit. We know they kind of waved their fist early, kind of flex their iron muscles. Stephen A. reported a couple of days ago that the players want to see a removal within a week. If anything short of a removal would drum back up, the chance of a boycott, a protest, all that good stuff. Now, I heard Stephen A. this morning say they understand that the litigation and things may take place, but they just want to see that the owners are moving forward. If they start to stall and kind of hem-haw around, then the players will get mad. But as long as the steps are being taken, they won't necessarily revolt next week.
Well, was it Charles Barkley who said if Donald Sterling or a member of the Sterling family still owns the Clippers, no black player is going to play for them next year? That's
a good point, because I don't think that's necessarily outside the realm of possibility. Now, the league, and I don't know the inner workings of how they vote and what they can disallow. You take Sterling out of the picture. Now, what rights does the family have? Can the NBA completely strip the family of the rights? That gets kind of messy. But what if it did fall into the hands of the wife? They're getting a divorce, and so now the team is a part of it, of that battle and that mess. When we're talking about Donald Sterling's wife, the topic came up about what Doc Rivers said about her. And I think, they debated it on ESPN. Was Doc, should he have said what he said? Should he have been as welcoming to her as he was? And I get it from both sides, Mark, because Doc Rivers isn't following the news circuit every day. Because we found out subsequently in the news that Donald Sterling's wife was complicit in a lot of his actions. And maybe Doc didn't know that at the time, where he said he felt sorry.
He was ignorant of some information.
He was. And I know Skip Bayless kind of said, what, Doc, you got to know. As Stephen A. said, he doesn't really know. It's not his job to keep up with that. I understand both sides, but that's really a tough look for Doc Rivers.
It is, but, I can look past that in a big way, because he's got a job to do. He's in the playoffs and going to a seventh game, and it's not his business to know, or his job to know anything about her other than the fact that she'd been good to him and he hadn't heard anything from her. This is all about Donald Sterling, but at the same time, since she is complicit with some of this stuff allegedly, she can't be the owner of this franchise. And if there's the name Sterling above the door, it's going to be a problem.
Wait, so are you saying, on the point before, are you disagreeing with Skip Bayless?
That's crazy, isn't it? You would never think I would do that. Hey, I want to bring something to your attention real quickly that you may not have seen. You mentioned the other day about the NAACP area, or Los Angeles area NAACP, how it was a little fishy, and you thought since they were giving Donald Sterling his second Lifetime Achievement Award, a guy with a history, and now he's only lived one life, like a lot of people have pointed out, but he was about to get his second Lifetime Achievement Award. Seemed like he was, a little fishy for all the stuff that you've heard about him, all the bad stuff that he had been tied to, and he's going to get another Lifetime Achievement Award. Maybe he put some money up, and this is not a guy who's above this kind of thing either, because he's the kind of guy who would donate some money and then take out an ad thanking himself in the newspaper. This has happened more than once. He put an ad, a full-page ad in the Los Angeles Times, thanking himself for a donation that he made to some place, and that UCLA said, nope, we don't want your $3 million. You can keep it. All these other people now are pulling out from the Clippers, and they want nothing to do with him. He's a scumbag. So, with that being said, the NAACP. What is he? I guess he's a president of the LA chapter of the NAACP has resigned. He said in order to separate from the Los Angeles NAACP and the NAACP crap. From the negative exposure I have caused the NAACP, I am going to resign. His name is Leon Jenkins, and from this ESPN picture, he's wearing a V-neck and a blazer. He looks like one of those dudes that I don't know that I would trust.
Oh, Lord. Look, this thing is funny because people get those mixed up all the time.
NCAA and NAACP.
Do you hear the woman congratulating UConn after they won a championship? And the 2014 NAACP champions, UConn.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, so it happens. Look, one thing I did, as far as the NAACP, Sterling bought goodwill, clearly dirty money. You can say no such thing as dirty money, whatever. I don't agree with that. He clearly bought goodwill with it. People who allowed that to happen need to go, and it looks like that's happening. But I actually listened to, I don't know if it's the whole transcript. I hear there's one like an hour-long tape, but I did hear the 9.5-minute one for the first time, like the whole 9.5 minutes of it. And first of all, It's the most disjointed conversation I've ever heard. He's got to be senile. Some things.
Did you hear before you get back? Did you hear why these things were being recorded? Allegedly, now somebody has reported that Donald Sterling said he was losing his mind. He said he couldn't remember stuff, so he asked her to start recording his thoughts. If that's the case, he's the idiot who got caught. Not only did he get caught, but he asked for it.
Yeah, so I said this Wednesday. I don't agree with those people. Freedom of speech. He said it in private. I may not agree with his views, but it's his right, and he shouldn't be removed from. I already told you why that's not applicable in this situation.
Freedom of speech has limitations. You can't just go on a plane this afternoon, yell bomb, see what happens. You can't do it. There are things you cannot do. You can't go into a mall and yell bomb. You can't go into a crowded elevator and talk about fire. You can't do these things and get away with it. So free speech has limits. When your free speech takes away the rights of somebody else or just brings a black eye to a group of people, he signs some stuff with the owners that says, I will do this, I will not do this, personal conduct policy. When that stuff becomes public and you're in violation of those documents, what do you expect?
You're right. In addition to that, and I said on Wednesday, the money was being affected. I mean, whether the comments were public, private, or whatever, corporate sponsors were letting their voice be heard by pulling out. And then that's the situation there. But as far as the tape is concerned, Marcus, we had to break here. It was disjointed. He sounded like a guy who was losing his mind. Again, that's not an excuse because when you're losing your mind, it's almost like a drunk person. You're just saying what's in your mind and what you've been filtering. So it was still in his heart and mind. It's just he sounded like a senile old man having a disjointed conversation. He's a sugar daddy. We know all that good stuff. So, that's what I took from it.
Bottom line is Donald Sterling is a bad guy, and he's been a bad guy for a long time. And I don't want to talk about the cancer. This is separate from that. But this event and him getting caught, he's getting what he deserves. So he's going to be without his team. He's going to be, I think, a unanimous 29-0 vote, a show of solidarity from the owners, and he's not going to have his team anymore. We'll look at the actual NBA playoffs right after this break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
All right, final segment of a Friday on the sports.
It doesn't even feel like
It doesn't feel like Friday, does it?
No.
It's weird.
I'm happy though.
Yeah.
Me and Pharrell, we're happy.
We're going to go to Balloons over Las Vegas this afternoon. Oh, it is 3 days from Cinco de Mayo. Monday. Yeah, we're gonna be having a fiesta in here. Oh yeah? No, yeah, we're having a fiesta in here. Wear your poncho, and your what's the big hat? The
sombrero, yeah.
We're gonna wear sombreros and ponchos on Monday. We're gonna offend everybody at the same time. Speaking of offense, you like that?
I like it.
Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios. Mr. Unreliable. That was the headline in the Daily Oklahoman yesterday. Barry Trammell wrote a pretty balanced and fair article about how, I say an article, it was a column about how Kevin Durant hadn't been all that reliable, especially at the free throw line in the Oklahoma City Thunder's first 5 games of the Western Conference playoffs against the Memphis Grizzlies. He averaged 28 points a game, but he had been shooting a very low percentage. He'd been missing free throws, especially the second one that would have tied the game in Game 5. And before old Joey came out there after him. But Kevin Durant gets this. It seemed to me to be more of a tabloid New York type headline, back page headline. Mr. Unreliable from the Daily Oklahoman, from the guy who's going to be the MVP. I thought that was kind of crazy.
Well, see, I was really interested to get your take. Obviously, this is your wheelhouse when it comes to headlines and writing columns. I look at it as, did I love the headline? No, but I actually didn't think it was way out of bounds. I actually didn't like their apology. I feel, maybe
if you're gonna write it, live with it.
Yeah, write it, live with it. Even if you had just sort of clarified maybe a little bit, but even that, I don't even think you had to do. You wrote it, you stand by it. Kevin Durant's people in Oklahoma City Thunder, I thought they came off a little bit sensitive to it. Look, you're one of the best players in all of basketball. You're a superstar. People are going to write about you when you're struggling in a series. You're about to be handed the MVP. I mean, look, we know what Dirk had to go through in 2007. Taking the MVP trophy at home is when he got it, because the first round was over and they got knocked out as a 1 seed. So, Kevin Durant responded. He played well. Oklahoma City's in the driver's seat of the series. We'll talk about that. But, Mark, as far as the article, I didn't love it, but I didn't think it was so far out of bounds to where he had to get all up in arms about it.
Here's the thing. I write headlines every day. It happens, and I've written some headlines that were misleading, not on purpose, never on purpose. In that headline, there are a couple things they could have done. One, they could have just written a different headline and just said something else about how he hadn't been having a good series, because he hasn't. He's the MVP, though, so you can't just call him Mr. Unreliable like in big, bold letters. There's one thing they could have done, though, and it's kind of a cop-out, but they could have done something very simple. One character would have changed this entire headline. Put a question mark there. Mr. Unreliable? Question mark? That would change the whole thing, because you're talking about the MVP, but you're not calling him unreliable. You're asking, is he Mr. Unreliable at this point? That's what I would have done if it were me writing that headline. I didn't like the apology. I'm not saying that they should have done it because I didn't like the headline, but at the end of the day, I've had to come back and say, all right, look, we wrote a headline. You all thought this. We meant that. Sorry, we'll change the headline, especially since we're online when they can't take all those newspapers back. I wasn't a big fan of it, especially since he was averaging 28 points a game in the series. Yeah, he was shooting a terrible percentage, but it's kind of hard when your point guard's shooting it every friggin' time he gets it. Yeah. So you get a little out of rhythm, and you got the best defensive player, one-on-one defender in the league on you. To average 28, I'm all right with it. So he came out last night. He had 36 big ones, and the Oklahoma City Thunder tied up that series, going back home to Oklahoma City for Game 7. You've also got Indiana, Atlanta going to Game 7, Golden State and the Clippers going to Game 7. If I had to guess, I would say Houston is going to have a good shot tonight to force a Game 7.
Really? Oh.
I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm saying they have a good shot. And then the Dallas Mavericks are trying to force a Game 7, and then the Brooklyn Nets are going to try to force a Game 7. So lots of great series going on right now. Wasn't real stoked with what I saw from the Atlanta Hawks last night against the Indiana Pacers. Had a chance to knock them out in Atlanta, up 5 with a couple minutes left, and just choked it away.
Yeah, last night you saw a couple of underdogs who had a chance to close out series in which they were thought to have no chance going in. Of course, talking about the Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Grizzlies. Now you look at Game 7 set up for both series, and it's going to be tough. Obviously, the favorite now has home court. But I read a stat. Road teams are 23-19 in the playoffs this year. 23-19, over 500. The road team has won. But the longer you let a favorite kind of get their legs, the less your chances become of pulling it off. And you wonder if you're Memphis. Now, Mike Conley's got a little bit of a knee issue or a hamstring issue going into Game 7 at Oklahoma City. Really doesn't look good for them. Looks like the Thunder will move on. And then even though Indiana hadn't played well, maybe I think this small lineup has helped them right the ship to where I can see them taking care of business against Atlanta in Game 7. And then, tonight could set up some Game 7s for Sunday. Houston could set up Game 7 at home if they can win at the tough Rose Garden tonight. Obviously, the Brooklyn Nets at home with their veteran presence, they're going to try to force a Game 7 back in Toronto.
Go Joe Johnson.
Joe Johnson's going to try to ball. They need him to. And, of course, Dallas, who I thought they've blown a couple of opportunities in this series. I think the Spurs have settled in. I think that series may end tonight.
That's kind of why, I think these playoffs are going to continue to get better. But, like Brad just texted me and he said something about don't be afraid of the Pacers. The Pacers can't play worse than they've played in the first 6 games of this series. Having a chance to win this series when they've played as bad as they possibly can, and they've had to sit Roy Hibbert, their all-star, on the bench because the Atlanta Hawks have sort of dictated to them how they were going to play. They're going to play better in the next round. And then if they get to Miami, they're going to have an advantage with Roy Hibbert unless he's just lost all confidence. And so, I'm rooting for the Hawks to knock them off. Why wouldn't I? In Game 7, for them to win 3 games in Indiana would crack me smooth up. That would be hilarious.
It would be funny. And, look, I think of this about the Pacers. They're not playing well right now, but here's the thing. This series is not a very good series for them just because – they're a team that they like their conventional lineup. They don't like to change from it. The size of Atlanta as far as being a smaller team, having a 4 and a 5 who can shoot the ball, it's tough for Roy Hibbert to stay engaged. And so, the Pacers are playing poorly, but a little bit of it has to do with their matchup with Atlanta. I think Washington's the team everybody's high on right now. Obviously, that's who Indiana would play, and people kind of have Washington penciled in past Indiana to play Miami. And I'm just not so sure. I think Washington more of a conventional team than a Gore type. They're a 2 twin tower type look. I think that kind of plays into more of what Indiana feels comfortable doing. I still would favor the Pacers, even though Washington has the momentum.
The Golden State Warriors win a thriller last night. I think it was 100-99 against the Los Angeles Clippers, forcing a Game 7. You got the Clippers in 7?
I do. I got to give the Warriors some credit because I didn't think this series should have gone more than 6. Obviously, we know about the distraction things that came down earlier in the week, but I thought the Warriors would try to do similar things to the Clippers, and the Clippers just have better players. So, especially without Andrew Bogut to help deal with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, got to give Mark Jackson credit. Stephen Curry, obviously he's big time. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. He's becoming one of my favorite players just because he's a great glue guy. The Warriors have played a lot better. Win or lose this series, I think Mark Jackson deserves to keep his job. I'll make that point.
Man, all these series still going on. Do you have Miami over Charlotte? Oh, wait, that series is already over.
Well,
that one ended in 4.
And see, I had the Bobcats in that series, so I was wrong.
Yeah, so that was a mistake. Game 6 tonight, Portland, Houston. I want to say Portland is going to win that game. Houston's got too much firepower, though, for me to just give it to Portland. They're tougher. Portland is a tougher team. I like Damian Lillard. I like LaMarcus Aldridge and Batum and those guys, and I'm going to be rooting for them to win that game. It'll be hard for them to beat Houston. The way Houston has played in 5 of these games so far has been so up and down, and obviously they don't guard anybody. They could go off and score 140 points in this game tonight, or they could get beat 140 to 139.
Well, see, and what I've said about this series is, Portland jumped out to a 3-1 series lead, and I felt like Portland just won 3 out of 4 coin flips because both of these teams can really score. Both of these teams are good offensively. They've had overtime games, tight games. Give Portland credit for closing the deal if you want to give one team an advantage. But I just, even down 3-1, I said I can't put Houston away just because I don't see anything Portland's doing to say they're just flat out better than Houston. It's over. And Houston won a coin flip, or they kind of controlled the last game. But it could be a toss-up. Portland could close tonight, or Houston could force a Game 7. I'm going to ask you this real quick, Mark. We've talked about Vogel. We've talked about Scott Brooks. Can they survive losing in the first round, either one of them?
No. Both of them be gone if they lose in the first round. Matter of fact, if If Scotty Brooks loses in the first round, I'll pack his bags for him. But because I'm just, and they can take Russell Westbrook with him. I like Russell Westbrook as far as I appreciate his talent and ability, but I wouldn't want him playing on my team because he's just too individualistic. Like he's just, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to care about anybody but himself and shooting it 25 times a game no matter what. Scotty Brooks, if they don't get to the Western Conference Finals, he's gone.
Okay, so even next round won't save him. Even if he, okay,
no, he's got to get to the Western Conference Finals. Vogel has to get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay,
either one of them lose before then, they're gone. Vogel might be gone anyway, unless they just really turn it around and cut. Like I said, what happens in Indiana if they win this series, they win the next series just by blowout. They win in 4 games, and then they play the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Heat beat them in 7 on a buzzer beater.
Yeah,
and things have just completely turned around for them. What happens in Indiana then? That's an interesting conversation.
So really, what Frank Vogel can save his job if he can just break your heart and get to the finals.
Now, if he gets to the actual finals, he's staying, and they're going to retool the team if they have to.
Yeah, and I'll if he gets to the NBA Finals, I'll be doing this show by myself because you'll be in the fetal position somewhere. Obviously, that means Miami will be sent home by the Indiana Pacers.
God, man, that would suck.
You know what? I said this, Mark, as we close the show here. I said Indiana would be able to get it right, even though they're struggling. I think they'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and by then they'll have it right. I still expect them to challenge Miami as much as they can, but I'm still confident the Heat will get it done.
Couple other things as we hit the road for today. Aroldis Chapman coming back from his injury, 100 miles an hour, 101 mile an hour pitch in his first rehab start. And it looks like the Texans GM says if they stay at number 1, now everybody at the top of this draft wants to trade down. If they stay at number 1, they know who they're going to pick.
Okay.
It's shocking to me how all this crap has been talked about Jadeveon Clowney, and then Todd McShay and Mel Kiper both have him going number 1 in the draft. You know how that happens? Those idiots don't know anything, and then they start talking to GMs, and they say, no, we're taking so-and-so. There's no question that they're taking Jadeveon Clowney, and they say, oh, well, let's just put him up back at number 1. That's exactly what happened.
Talent talks. I mean, look, he had laziness issues and other issues, but in the end, you look at his tape, you look at him work out, you just say it's too much talent to pass. That's what's going on.
Those guys got... Those McShay and Kiper have Joe Lunardi tendencies, They just wait till somebody hands them a piece of paper and tells them where, and then they just move their...
Todd.
God, those guys drive me nuts. All right, and then finally, there was something else. Oh, the SEC. We haven't talked about SEC football a whole lot. We'll hit this over the summer, but they're staying with the 8-game schedule and forcing the SEC teams to play one of the Big 5 conferences in, I guess the other Big 4 conferences in a non-conference game for the foreseeable future. They're keeping the traditional rivalry sort of thing alive, and you got like LSU going to have to play. They're still mad because they have to play Florida, it seems like, every year, and they've got rough schedules. But the SEC not going to the 9-game slate yet.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I know some Pac-12 coaches are complaining about it. In case you're wondering, Mark, we know Arkansas is set up for the most part. They've got Michigan in a few years. They've got TCU coming up in a series. So if you're wondering how Arkansas is going to meet that criteria of one opponent from a power conference, those are the opponents they have listed. And obviously Texas Tech coming up here in the future.
Yep. All right, we got to get out of here. We'll be back on Monday. I may or may not be here myself, but like I've said for the last week. But Weldon will be here. He'll hold it down. We'll see if we can't get him a co-host. Maybe Maddie can just turn on his microphone and sound all weird over there, talking all low and quiet.
What do you guys think about?
Well, we'll have the Sports Blitz going on leading up to the Brightest Stars Banquet May 29th. Lots of good stuff. Wish my wife luck as she's about to be having a child in the next 5 or so days. So looking forward to that. And we'll get out of here for today. For Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark saying so long. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on Monday with more Sports Blitz.